Is the Goodyear Wrangler Duratrac tire the best all-terrain tire money can buy? Who really knows? But what we are going to do is compare the old Duratrac to the brand new Duratrac RT tire and see what Goodyear has done to improve these Duratrac all-terrain tires. Welcome back, I'm Alex. Today we're talking about the new Goodyear RT Duratrac. And well, I've run the old Duratrac tires on my trucks for the last 6-ish years, so it gives me a really good idea of what I like, don't like, the advantages, the disadvantages of the old Duratrac tire, and we can see if Goodyear has indeed improved upon them with this new RT tire. So let's head back to the shop. I'll meet you there. First things first, I am not a designated tire expert, so don't take my word as gospel. In fact, don't ever do that, because there's a lot of other smarter people on YouTube, like the good fellow at Outdoor Auto. Got a lot of information from his video on these tires, and I'll link his video down below. He does a lot of tire reviews. He's got lots of good information. Check him out, I highly recommend it. So first we'll talk about all the upgrades and differences about the new RT tire, and then we'll look at the old Duratracs on my truck with about 28,000 miles of wear on them, and look at maybe some of the downsides or the downfalls of this tire. So we'll get your peepers in nice and close. So the old Duratrac, introduced in 2009, was an extremely aggressive all-terrain tire. This thing was very good in the mud because, well, look at the size of these lugs, the voiding. Mud could easily get flung out of these tires, and that's what made these Duratrac tires really well liked, because they were just such an aggressive all-terrain tire, and probably much closer to a true mud tire than your traditional all-terrain tire. And you're probably saying, well, the new tread pattern looks basically the same as the old tread pattern, and that is sort of true. The tread pattern, the design, the shape of it really hasn't changed, and Goodyear says they've done that on purpose because they were so satisfied with the original tread shape and how it performed that they pretty much left it. But as we'll find out, there are some actual really big differences between these two treads, which have a big impact on some pros and cons on different terrains. Another thing that Goodyear did not change is the tire compound. Goodyear felt or was satisfied with the current compound that did not change it for this new RT tire. These Duratracs are a rather soft rubber, which is great for off-road performance, great for snow and ice performance, but is not necessarily great for tire wear. Thankfully, these new Duratracs, the RTs, always come with 13 mil of tread depth. And as we'll get into the video, we'll talk about why this tire should, in theory, despite having the same compound, wear much less or much slower than the old Duratrac. The sidewalls are a different story. Visually, it's probably the biggest difference between the new tire and the old tire. There's just so much more rubber on the sidewall. It's thicker. And it's just gonna lead to better protection as well as better grip, especially if you air down these tires. Looking at the old ones, we got these triangles, you know, with that kind of alternating scoops on them, and they probably work just fine, but obviously these babies are gonna have much more protection, much more grip, which is what you want. Another thing I like about this tire is how Goodyear kind of incorporated the sidewall into the tire shoulder and then into the tread, and well, vice versa, the tread kind of falls into the sidewall, making the shoulder of the tire a little bit more protected, a little bit more grippy, where this tire, you got your tread face and then you have your sidewall, and there really isn't much fluidity between the two. It's kind of like an 18-wheeler just falling off a cliff there. So I like Goodyear kind of incorporating the sidewall into the whole tire design, which it looks cool and it's probably very functional. We can see this massive Kevlar badge here, and well, they're not kidding. The sidewall on these new RTs is significantly stronger than the sidewall on these old Duratracs, because this is now a 3-ply tire, which people were hounding Goodyear to do for this tire. I mean, the KO2s always came with 3 plies. These things were only 2-ply sidewalls, and see if I can show you. This is my spare tire for a reason. Yeah, right here. So, I mean, there's probably about, I don't know, 4,000 or 5,000 miles, maybe a little less on this tire. And well, because I was out kind of in the woods and we took some damage on the sidewall, and I knew and I heard about these sidewalls being pretty weak, so I didn't take any chances. ripped this tire off, and now it's my spare. Where this tire, when you're out in the woods, out in the trails, and this happens, you can be a little bit more confident that you're not gonna blow out the sidewall, because I heard many complaints about this Duratrac that the sidewalls just could not hold up on that, you know, rugged trails that some people were taking these tires down. Really happy that Goodyear finally made these a 3-ply tire. And well, there are a number of pros and cons to that, which we'll talk about. But in terms of the Kevlar, as far as I'm aware, again, I'm not an expert, is that there actually isn't a dedicated Kevlar layer. Rather, one of the layers has some Kevlar in it, if that makes sense. Sidewall, 3 polyester layers, and well, apparently one of these layers has some Kevlar in it, so there you go. A couple things to consider with the stronger 3-ply sidewall. First of all, obviously, it's just gonna be a much more durable tire off-road. It's gonna be able to take more abuse, but it's also gonna be a heavier tire, which could affect fuel economy. In terms of airing down your tire, this sidewall is gonna be just a lot more stiffer than this tire. So potentially, if you are someone that likes to air down their tires going in that intense off-road situations, these may not be able to bite as much because the sidewall is just not going to be as flexible. That sidewall is bowed out very nicely, like this, and you can see sidewall is actually kind of biting into the ground there because there's so much bow here, and that's what really gives you that extra grip. The third thing is that, well, the ride quality is going to be a little bit stiffer as well. So when you are off-road on these trails or going down dirt roads, the ride quality might be a little bit more shaky, a little bit more rough because that stronger sidewall. Another interesting difference is, well, these old tires are made in the good US of A. These new tires, the new RTs, are not. They are actually made in Chile. Don't know why that is, but certainly is a difference. Now, getting back to the actual tread where the rubber meets the road, one of the first differences is that the tread blocks or the lugs are actually larger on the new tire than the old tire. Starting on the outside, these lugs actually dig deeper into the center of the tire than these outside lugs. The other thing that was pointed out to me, which hopefully you guys can see that, is that these two lugs, they're kind of interlocked with one another with kind of like some rubber down below, helps to stabilize these lugs during turning events. And well, I guess, you know, these lugs on this tire similarly are kind of linked together, but there's much more rubber linking these together, which should make them much stiffer and help with turning, help with on-road performance. And looking to the center, these lugs are also actually bigger than the lugs on the old tire. Just look at the spacing. There's just less spacing in between the lugs. It's because these things are bigger. And you might think, well, bigger lugs should mean a more aggressive tire. Well, actually not really. One of the main reasons why these old Duratrac tires were so good in the mud is because of these gappings, the voids. And what that does is it allows this tire to clear itself, for mud to be eliminated from the tire or flung out from the tire, and it can keep digging. And so the gapping between these lugs here is much closer to what you'd see on a traditional mud terrain tire versus a traditional all-terrain tire, where normally we see these gaps kind of close up. And this is what Goodyear has done with this tread pattern. Yes, they look very, very similar, but hopefully you guys can see, now that we're talking about it, that the voids, the gaps between lugs here are just a little bit smaller. And yes, in theory, that should make this tire not as good in the mud, although these gaps are still very large in comparison to, again, traditional all-terrain tires. So you may be losing some deep mud performance, but what you're gonna gain is a much more well-rounded tire. This tire is gonna perform much better on dry surface, on pavement, on wet pavement, in the snow, in sand, where this tire, yes, it was fantastic in the mud, but there were a couple of downsides, which we will talk about later in the video. Another benefit of this tread pattern being a little bit tighter is there's gonna be more rubber on the road, which means this tire should wear less quickly than this tire, despite being made of the same compound. This tire should be quieter, and it should be less likely to wear unevenly, which was a big complaint with these old Duratracs. I don't think people realize how often they needed to be rotated, and well, they would start to either feather or just wear unevenly, and then they'd get loud, and well, then people really start to complain. For me specifically, snow performance is a big factor because, well, I live in New Brunswick, Canada, and 4 or 5 months of the year, the roads could be covered with snow. So with this tighter tread pattern, like I mentioned, it will have a better snow performance because snow is much more likely to get trapped in the tread. So unlike mud performance, where you want mud to actually clear from the tire, you want snow to actually stick in the tread because snow on snow is much better traction than snow on rubber. So the more snow you can actually have in the tread, the grippier the tire is gonna be. And well, with again, a tighter tread pattern, this tire should be a better performer in the snow than this tire. Now, both of these tires do have the 3-peak snow rating, but this tire should perform better. Another thing that's pretty critical about snow performance is, well, and wet performance, is these sipings here. And just visually, you can see that there are more sipes in this tire. Like, let's take this tread, for example, here. You got what, 1, 2, 3, 4, come over here, you got 1, 2. So the more siping is the more ability for snow to get caught up in here, and it just allows the tire to be much grippier in snowy conditions as well as wet conditions. One thing though that these tires do not have is the ability to be studded. So this tire obviously is not studded, but what I could have done is ordered Duratracs with metal studs in these holes here, and that makes this tire extremely grippy when it comes to snow and ice conditions. Something this tire just doesn't have an option for. So to summarize, Goodyear put a much stronger 3-ply sidewall in these tires. The sidewall design itself is much more aggressive, but looking at the tread itself is actually less aggressive than the old design because, well, of the bigger lugs, the smaller voids between the lugs. So in theory, we are gonna lose a little bit of that deep mud performance, but we're gonna gain performance on dry traction, wet traction surfaces, snow surfaces, sand surfaces. These tires are gonna wear much evenly, they're gonna wear much less, as well as hopefully staying quieter much longer than these old tires. To me, that sounds like a pretty good trade-off. Let me know what you guys think. Personally, the one thing I wish is that these tires could have been studded. If these RT Duratracs could have been studded, I would have already ordered them for this winter. I am looking at potentially buying some new all-terrain tires for the snow this winter. Let me know what you guys think. So as promised, it's time to talk about my own Duratracs. I use these babies every single day. There's about, I don't know, 28,000 miles on this truck. And I do really like these tires, but there's a couple drawbacks that I want to talk about. The biggest downfall about these Duratrac tires for me is the siping. Now, let me explain. So you can see on this new Duratrac and even this newer Duratrac, you know, the siping looks great, tons of it, but if you guys can kind of see, the siping does not go all the way down through the tread. Now, it's even harder to see on this tire because it actually is brand new, but you can see right there, if you would focus, see how the siping doesn't actually go all the way through the tread. You can see it there and right there as well, right there. And so what happens is when you start to wear away tread like these tires, again, about 28,000 miles on these tires, look at the difference in the siping. You know, there's much, much less siping, which then makes these tires just less grippy in the snow, especially for me. And it's one thing that always annoyed me, why these sipes didn't go all the way down through the tread. I know the KO2s, their siping goes all the way through the tread, so it doesn't matter if the tire's brand new or 60% used, you know, the grip is gonna be pretty comparable. Where this tire, I found at the end of this winter, just was not as grippy as when these tires were brand new. Look at the difference in the siping. You get all of this to trap snow. It makes these tires bite so hard, but when you start to wear away these tires, like what I have on my truck right now, you just end up with these big lugs with very minimal siping, and well, on snow and ice, it's just not advantageous. I was really hoping the new Duratrac RTs would have deeper siping, but I think you guys will be able to see that is like, there's deep, and then you can see there's not deep, there's not deep. So as this tire wears, you're gonna end up with the same siping pattern as what's on my truck currently. But the KO2s, and specifically now the new KO3s, have a lot more siping, and their siping goes all the way through the tread, so it just would have been really nice to see Goodyear do that to this tire. The second thing I don't like about these tires is how often they have to be rotated. I rotate these tires every 10,000 kilometers or so, and I'm due to do it soon. But I'm probably gonna have to start doing that even more often because I'm starting to see uneven tire wear as these tires start to wear. Additionally, Goodyear's own tire rotation demonstration video shows them actually flipping the tire on the rim, which again is what I'm probably gonna have to do with this tire because the outside of these tires are wearing much quicker than the inside, and I'll show you what I mean. So hopefully you guys will be able to see, the outside of the tire is starting to wear kind of weird. It's starting to wear more than the inside. Like the inside you can still see we still have some shoulders here. There's nothing over here. I think I have about 11 mil, give or take, of wear there. And over here, it's much closer to, like, if you would focus, about 7 mil. So, you know, that's a pretty big difference. And like I said, I rotate my tires every 10,000 kilometers. I might have to do that even sooner. You know, you guys might be screaming, well, the alignment's off. Well, I've had this truck back to the dealership twice, almost once every year since I've owned it. The alignment is perfect. It's been perfect both times. It's not the alignment. So it's very interesting how I'm getting much more tire wear on the outside of the tire. And well, again, Good Life recommends to actually flip these tires on the rims. I wonder if it's for this specific purpose. So that's one thing that I'm a little bit frustrated about with these tires is just that they don't seem to wear in very well. They seem to wear in a little bit awkwardly. I had this kind of happen with my old truck as well. Not as bad as this. But yeah, so tire wear is just, it's uneven, and you have to rotate your tires so frequently to try and avoid this. The third and last thing that bugs me about these Duratrac tires is the price. These things are not cheap. This tire, the new RT tire that I'm using today for the video, that cost me about $450 for a single tire, not even installed. So I'm probably looking at about $2,000 to get a pair, or well, 4 of these things installed on this truck, which to me is just a little bit expensive for a all-terrain tire. Let me know what you guys think. What are you running on your trucks? I put a poll out earlier last week, and apparently you guys love the KO2s. I'm honestly really thinking about getting some KO3s, maybe. We'll see, but yeah, let me know what you guys are running. If you did like the video, don't forget to leave that thumbs up, and well, if you like cool stuff like this, if you liked my tire review, don't forget to subscribe because maybe there'll be more of them. We'll see. Anyways, enough of me. We'll see you in the next freaking video.